The private dining room at the Alder House smelled like rosemary butter and quiet money. We were in Charleston, South Carolina, tucked behind a velvet curtain where the clink of crystal was muted and every surface gleamed with intention. My sister, Brooke, sat at the head of the table like she had been born there, her posture effortless, her smile calibrated for an audience. She was celebrating what she called her brand relaunch, a glossy feature in a regional lifestyle magazine that she swore was about to change everything. She said it was finally her moment. My mother, Karen, stood up and tapped her fork against her champagne flute. The sound cut through the room instantly. Conversations died mid-sentence. "To Brooke," she said, her voice thick with pride that felt practiced, not earned. "To the bravest person in this family, the one who isn't afraid to chase something bigger." Applause rippled around the table. Friends of friends, a couple of local investors, people who liked the idea of success more than the work behind it. I clapped too, my hands moving automatically, my face calm in the way you learn to keep it when you don't want to be noticed. Then the server arrived. He didn't stop at my parents. He didn't glance at my sister. He walked straight to me and placed a heavy leather folder beside my water glass. I opened it. $3,820. I stared at the number. It wasn't just a bill. It was an expectation, an unspoken agreement everyone else at the table had already made on my behalf. My mother leaned over, her perfume sharp and expensive, wine on her breath. "You have a stable job, sweetheart," she whispered, her hand pressing warmly against my arm. "Brooke needs this. Support your sister. It's the least you can do." I looked down at her hand, then at the folder. I didn't argue. I didn't sigh. I closed it, rested my fingertips on the leather, and slid it back across the table until it struck the stem of her champagne glass with a clean, unmistakable clink. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I want to know who's here with me tonight. The silence that followed wasn't polite. It was absolute, the kind that swallows oxygen. My mother froze, eyes locked on the folder touching her glass. Brooke's smile collapsed, her gaze darting around the room, suddenly aware of how many people were watching. Chairs shifted. Someone cleared their throat. I stood up. My legs felt light, disconnected, like my body had already decided this moment for me. I looked at my sister, then at my mother. "If it's a business launch," I said, evenly, loud enough for the room to hear, "the business should pay for it." I didn't wait for a response. I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, a chair scraped sharply against the floor. "Evelyn," my mother hissed, "sit down." I didn't. I passed the host stand, the coat check, and pushed through the heavy wooden doors into the cold Charleston night. The air hit my face hard, bracing. For the first time all evening, I breathed all the way in. My fiancé, Mark, followed without a word and opened the car door for me. His jaw was tight, his silence steady. The drive home was quiet. Streetlights blurred past the window. I waited for the guilt, for the panic, for the reflex to apologize and fix whatever I had just broken. It never came. Instead, there was a strange, calm clarity. My hands rested in my lap, still. For years, I had absorbed the shock so no one else had to. Tonight, I had handed the bill back, and nothing collapsed. Mark reached over and squeezed my hand. "You okay?" he asked softly. I shook my head. "I think I just quit," I said. "Good," he replied. "You should have a long time ago." When we pulled into our driveway, the apartment windows were dark and quiet, peaceful. Inside, my phone was already lighting up, a storm gathering, but I didn't look. Standing in that quiet, I realized something I hadn't let myself think before. I wasn't strong. I was compliant, and there's a difference. There's a concept in psychology called the gambler's fallacy, the belief that if you keep putting something in long enough, eventually it has to pay off. I had treated my family like a rigged machine for years. I kept feeding it time, money, patience, convinced the jackpot of approval was inevitable. I thought about the coins I'd dropped in, the $4,000 I covered when my father had his reinvention phase and bought a truck he couldn't afford, the security deposit for Brooke's first apartment because her credit wasn't ready yet, the endless emergencies that were really just consequences. Tonight, I stopped pulling the lever. Every time I paid, I told myself the same lie. This is the last time. This is the one that makes them see me. This is the investment that finally earns respect. And sometimes the machine flickered. A thank you text, a hug at Christmas, my mother saying, "I don't know what we'd do without you, Evelyn." Those tiny payouts were just enough to keep my hand on the lever. But that night, staring at the bill in the private room, I finally understood the truth. The game wasn't broken, it was designed to take. It was never going to pay out what I was waiting for. Back in the apartment, I poured myself a glass of water. My hands didn't shake. I wasn't waiting for a win anymore. I had simply run out of coins. The silence felt heavy, charged. My phone sat face down on the nightstand, vibrating hard against the wood. Not a gentle buzz, a frantic, angry rattle. The screen flashed again and again, lighting the room in sharp bursts. I picked it up. The messages stacked like bricks. "Brooke, are you out of your mind? You embarrassed me in front of potential backers." "Dad, your mother is crying. You've gone too far this time." "Karen, this is petty, Evelyn, even for you." A voicemail notification followed. I didn't play it. The preview text was enough. "I don't know who you think you are, but you need to fix this now." I scrolled. Not one message asked why. Not one asked if I could afford the bill. Not one asked if I was okay. They weren't worried about me, they were worried the ATM had stopped working. The barrage was coordinated, designed to overwhelm me into retreat. But instead of shame, I felt something colder, detached, like a scientist observing behavior under glass. This wasn't love, it was a transaction that had failed. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. The blue light washed over my face. I didn't type an apology. I opened a blank spreadsheet. If we were going to talk about what I owed, we were going to use math, not guilt. Date, item, cost. I started with the easy ones. Brooke's rent in 2018, $1,350. Dad's legal fees after the DUI, $6,200. Mom's reset trip to Arizona, $900. The numbers accumulated quickly, black ink exposing years of stagnation. But halfway through, I realized the money wasn't all about it. I added another column and titled it The Ghost Ledger. This one was for what never had receipts. The anniversary dinner I missed because Brooke had a meltdown over a pitch meeting. Cost, 1 memory erased. The weekend I spent clearing out my father's storage unit while he watched football inside. Cost, 2 days of my life. The promotion my mother barely acknowledged before spending an hour talking about Brooke's new haircut. Cost, self-worth. I typed until my fingers ached. Every apology swallowed. Every boundary ignored. Every night I played therapist, driver, emotional shock absorber. I was building a balance sheet of grief. The total stunned me. I wasn't just in debt, I was bankrupt. Mark stood in the doorway scrolling through his phone. "Evelyn," he said, holding it out. "Look." It was a photo he had taken of the receipt at dinner. He zoomed in past the food and wine. A line item I hadn't seen. Private dining room deposit. Future event hold. $1,500. My stomach dropped.
"What does that mean?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "But the date's next month." I called the restaurant. Late, but the manager answered. I softened my voice, polite and professional. "Hi, I'm calling to confirm the deposit on the Carter receipt from tonight, just verifying the date." Keys tapped. "Yes, ma'am. The Magnolia Room is reserved for Karen and Thomas Carter's 30th anniversary celebration on the 12th. The deposit secures the space." I hung up slowly. My hand shook. The anniversary party, the one my mother told me they canceled, the one they couldn't afford. They weren't canceling it, they were booking it, with my money. My phone buzzed again. "Dad, We're downstairs. Buzz us up. We need to settle this. Mark looked at me, arms crossed, ready. You want me here? No, I said. This has to be me. I needed them to see my strength wasn't borrowed. I buzzed them in. When I opened the door, the hallway felt smaller. My father entered first, heavy with disappointment. My mother followed, purse clutched tight. Brooke trailed behind in oversized sunglasses, crying already cued. They didn't greet me. They walked straight into my living room like they owned it. Sit down, my father said. I did. I placed the manila folder on the coffee table between us. Inside were the spreadsheets, bank statements, and the blown-up receipt with the deposit circled in red. My hand rested on top of it. We're going to reset, my mother began, voice clipped. You've lost your way, Evelyn. Tuesday night was unacceptable. You humiliated your sister. You disrespected this family, my father added. You made a scene people are still talking about. Brooke's voice cracked on cue. My investors think we're unstable now. Do you know how hard it is to get funding when your own sister makes you look like a charity case? We're willing to move past this, my father said, raising a hand to silence her. He looked at me with that familiar blend of pity and authority. We know you've been under stress. Maybe you're jealous. Maybe you feel left behind. We forgive you, but you need to apologize. You need to pay the bill you walked out on and make this right. I looked at them, really looked. For years, this tribunal would have shattered me. I would have begged, cried, twisted myself into whatever shape they needed, but the fear was gone. In its place was the cool detachment of someone reviewing failing accounts. They weren't my family in this moment. They were bad investments asking for another round of funding. Are you finished? I asked. My voice was flat, controlled. We're finished when you apologize, my mother snapped. I tapped the folder. I'm not here to apologize. I'm here to review the accounts. The air shifted. They felt it, the realization that the script they brought wasn't the one I was reading from. I opened the folder. Paper slid softly against wood. I lifted the receipt. Item 1, I read, eyes on the numbers. Dry-aged ribeye, $89. Item 2, bottle of Voof, $420. Evelyn, stop, my mother hissed. I didn't. My finger dropped to the circled line. Item 4, private dining room deposit, future event hold, $1,500. I looked up. I called the restaurant. The Magnolia Room is booked for your 30th anniversary next month, the one you said was canceled because you couldn't afford it. The color drained from my mother's face. My father stared at the rug. Brooke stopped crying. You said there wasn't a party, she whispered. We didn't want to burden you, my mother said quickly. We knew you were stressed about money. I laughed once, dry. So you used my card to book the venue. I spread the spreadsheets across the table. 5 pages, single-spaced. This is an audit of the last 5 years. Rent, legal fees, trips, phone bills, subscriptions. I tapped the total. $42,600. We raised you, my father snapped. You owe us. I don't owe you anything. My voice didn't rise, but it cut clean. I'm not your daughter. I'm your venture capitalist, the silent partner you drain when things go wrong, and I'm pulling my funding. I stood and pointed to the door. Leave. My mother reached for me. We can work this out. I stepped back. The account is closed. Leave your key. Slowly, my father placed it on the table. They left without another word. 3 months passed. The silence that followed wasn't punishment. It was peace. My bank balance grew. The drain stopped. One morning, I told Mark to book the trip. Not Italy, Tokyo, because it was my choice. I archived the spreadsheet, closed the laptop. I lost a family, but I gained my life. The balance is 0. I'm finally in the black. If this story stayed with you longer than the video itself, don't walk away. Subscribe. This channel is for people who actually feel what they hear. And share this with someone you love who needs to hear it.